Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's EnRoute webinar. My name's Bennett. I'll be the moderator for today, and our presenter is Aaron Clapp, Application Specialist at SAi. He knows everything there is to know about EnRoute, and today he'll be showing us how to use and edit shortcuts in EnRoute. After the presentation, we'll be able to answer any questions you have, either about using shortcuts or any other EnRoute topics, so feel free to put those questions in the chat, and we'll answer as many as we can. We are recording the webinar as always, so if you want to review anything Aaron discusses, we'll be sending you all the link here this afternoon, so look out for that. And that's about it for me, so I'll turn the presentation over to Aaron.
All right, so we're going to split this into 3 sections, and we're going to first address, oh, no, I don't want to save the file. All right, we're going to split up into shortcuts, how to edit your shortcuts in EnRoute 7, and then how to edit the menu items and also the toolbars. So I want to get to the menu bar stuff first, but let's go to the preferences here, and let's turn off the autosave so they don't get bugged every 5 minutes. Okay. So in EnRoute 7, in order to edit your buttons and your layout, your menu items or your shortcuts, we've added a new file inside the software in order for you to do that. Now, I will admit this is going to be a little different, and eventually in the future we'll have a graphical user interface that will allow you to do this. But for now, you got to edit an XML file. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our local C drive here. So I just pulled up a File Explorer window. You go to your C drive, find out, grab your EnRoute 7 install, and you're going to look for a file called EnRoute Preferences interface.xml. So I'm going to right click and open it with Notepad++. Notepad++ is a free program you can download if you want, or if you just have a regular version of Windows, Notepad works just fine. The only difference between Notepad and Notepad++ is that it shows you kind of the color differences here in some of the stuff because it recognizes HTML. So this is what you're going to be greeted with. Now, this may seem a little daunting at first, but the good thing here is it's not too bad. So we're going to scroll down all the way down to the bottom. There are several sections to this, as you can see. These are going to be the toolbars. And then the next section will be menu items. So you can see menu. And then the last section, which will be the shortcuts. Now, the shortcuts are pretty easy to control. So it just opens up with a section called Shortcut Preferences, and each one is listed. So you've got a ton of them here. And then it allows you to assign multiple key bindings to each one. So up to 4 key binds for each one. And you'll notice that a lot of the basic or simple ones are already kind of populated with, backplot, like file open, file save as, cut, copy, paste. A lot of them are already set. In fact, if you go into your menu, some of them will already be pre-labeled. So you can kind of see them here in terms of what they are and whatnot like that. So you can kind of see those listed there. So if I ever want to change anything, the first thing I'm going to need to do is close down EnRoute. So I'm going to close down EnRoute. This application is going to ask me if I want to reload it. I'm just going to say yes, but typically you would not have this open. So typically you'd have both of these items closed, and then you would open up this file fresh. I'm going to open it with Notepad++, and I'm going to scroll down to my keybind section. So now all I have to do is just define what keybinds I want to use for that particular shortcut. You'll notice that as I scroll down here, there's a bunch of them that just are not even assigned at all. EnRoute actually doesn't have an assignment for some of these keybinds. So for example, all the align options, none of them have a keybind to them. So this is an opportunity for you to input brand new keybinds that have never existed for any kind of or some of these objects ever. So you've always had to go to the menu to kind of create these. You can edit or add new ones. One of the things that I will mention is that typically we share a hierarchy of buttons. So I would say that Control or Shift should typically always come first, and then your letter number or your number key should always go last. So a good example of that is, let's just go to File Open here. So the default keybind for File Open is Control 0. Let's just say I wanted to add a shift to that. So I'm just going to say Control Shift, and I'm going to use capitals for the beginning of the letters here, just to keep in alignment with the other things. So you'll see Alt has an A that's capital, Shift has an S that's capital, Control has a C that's capital. It may not make a difference, but I like to just kind of keep things the same. And then you'll notice also that anytime a letter is called out, it's also in capital as well. So for my third key, I'm going to add the O back in. So Control Shift O is going to open my new file open. And in this case, I have a save button up here, but if you're using Notepad, you'll just go to your file menu and hit save. Now I can close this, and I'm going to reopen EnRoute, and we're going to test out our new keybind. All right, so we've got here. So in this case, I'm going to hit Control Shift O, and now it brings my open file. So just this is simple. It's not too bad. Again, if you need to know what the object you're looking for, you can just find it right here inside of the menu. So Draw, Dimensions, Single Dimension. So what you would do is you'd go into your XML file and look for the single dimension. Actually, we need to close down EnRoute first. Make sure you always have EnRoute closed when you do that. Open it with Notepad, and then we'll look for single dimension, which we could probably just scroll down here. We could do a Control F to find. Dimension single. There we go. And then we can assign it a new keybind. So we can add in whatever we want. Again, we can edit anything in here. There's almost, it's a huge list. So you'll notice that a lot of these have some, but then there's also a big chunk of them that don't. And so this is really nice. So this will allow you to edit any shortcut that you want inside of EnRoute and create your own custom layout. Or if you're coming from a different application, like AutoCAD or Illustrator, and they have different keybinds, it would be also good to be able to, now you can switch those back to the way they were. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back to Shift Control O, and I will save. Now, so that's editing your keybinds. Now, you can also edit some other things in EnRoute, and I'm going to go ahead and close this out real quick, and we're going to reopen EnRoute. It's important that you close EnRoute, because what happens is if you don't, it resets everything that you've done if you try and edit it while it's open. So you don't want to lose a bunch of things that you've changed. So let's open up a brand new file, just so we have something on screen here. So the next one is going to be the toolbars and the menu bar items. Now, we already have a way to customize this as it is, right? So you can go to your help menu, go to setup options, and if you want to emulate any version of EnRoute 6 from the past, you can. So we've got basic, complete, plus, or pro. So complete and pro are going to be very similar. The only difference is pro, I don't think, has the 3D tools out, but the complete does. So you can click on those and they'll pop up and they'll change your layout just like this. So now it looks just like it did in EnRoute 6, and that's a great option to have. So if you're familiar with EnRoute 6 and you like to do that, you can come in here. You can also choose from a couple of our other ones. We've got a custom one here called compressed. That one's kind of a smaller compressed version, which is very minimalistic. It removes a lot of the toolbars and kind of puts everything into drop-down boxes. So I'm going to go back to standard and just go back to complete the way that it was. This is a standard EnRoute 7 look. It has a lot of drop-down menus and things like that. So let's look at the toolbars. One thing to know about the toolbars is that they're all labeled. So each one of these toolbars has a label to it. So if I drag out, for example, this one right here, and I pull it out, you'll notice that it has a label to it called output. Each one of these has a label to it. This one is called the toolpath menu. So that's going to come in handy here in a minute once we go to looking at the XML file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just leave this open just for a second because I want to show you kind of back and forth a few things as we look at the XML file here. So let's take a look at editing our menu or our toolbars. So again, we're going to go all the way back to the top. And what we're going to look at here is the toolbar. So you can see that as we create new categories, each one of them opens and closes with the little brackets, or the carets is what they call those. So we're opening a toolbar. And then at the end, we use the slash to close the toolbar. So this is one entire toolbar. And then if we look right below that, we can see which toolbar that is. Now, typically, you really won't have to edit this a whole lot, but you could create new toolbars if you wanted to. And this is how you would do it. So we could say, all right, this is the file menu. And then underneath that, we can see that there's a bunch of buttons. And each button starts with a caret and ends with a slash caret. Now, if you want a flyout menu, then what you do is you open a button and then you don't close that button until the very end. So if we take a look at this first button is File New. That's this guy right here. So the first button is new, and because, go back to our file, oh, not Outlook, goodness gracious. Close that. Go back here. If we take a look at this, our first button is new, and then underneath that we have file open, file import, file save, and then we close the file new button with a slash caret. So if we go in here, now we can see that we have new, open, import, and save. Now let's go ahead and close EnRoute real quick, and let's make a change. So let's just say that I want to zoom all. I'm just actually just going to copy this right here. I'm going to copy it, that whole line. I'm going to hit enter to create a new line, and I'm just going to paste it in there, Control V. So now under the File New button, I'm going to have a function called Zoom All. I'm going to save that. I'm going to reopen EnRoute 7. Bring it up here. So now if I click here under New, now I have Zoom All, zoom to all objects. So this kind of seems like it could be a little bit complicated, but it's actually not too bad. So what this allows you to do is perhaps maybe there's a function that you use all the time that you just want to have as a button on the menu bar. Let's just say, for example, we'll stay with the file menu, and then let's just say we're going to add something to the file menu button bar that we just always are using. So let's go to our software here and close it. Let's go ahead and remove this one. Removing it is easy as just deleting it and then getting rid of that line. Let's see here. So let's add a new button, and we're just going to say, we can grab anything from any one of these other sections here. So let's just say we want a button for output. I'm just going to hit Control C to copy the output. And I'm just going to add it. Let's just say I want it right next to my File New button. make a new line, paste it in there. And because I want this just to be a single button. I don't want it to have a submenu or anything like that. I'm just going to open it with a caret, close it with a /caret. Hit save. So this is going to appear immediately after the File New button and in between the Measure button. So now I go back into EnRoute 7, open it back up again. And now, right here, in between the New button and the Measure, I have my Output button. Of course, we do already have that over here, but the point is here is you can take any one of these buttons and insert them on any toolbar you want. You could even make your own brand new custom toolbar if you wanted to. And all you would have to do is go back into the XML function and create a new toolbar. Just like this, I could just copy this entire section. I could copy it, paste it, and then delete all the buttons that are in it and create my own buttons and things like that. So if there's let's say there's 5 or 6 buttons that you really like to use and you want to create a custom toolbar just for that, you could call it your custom toolbar or custom buttons, whatever you want to call it. And then you can add all the buttons that you want to it. So really kind of powerful here and pretty useful if you want to go into the kind of the deep end and configure everything about your experience. Now, the next thing is going to be menu items. So menu items are going to operate very similar to your button functions. So you see here that we have menus, file menu, we've got the edit menu, we've got the view menu, and then underneath that it has individual buttons. And then you'll notice that when we have a flyout menu, they tab it in and then they don't close. So you'll see here that the little line that's drawn here, so you've got an open menu item and a close menu item, and everything that you want inside that flyout menu is indented. So let's just take a look at EnRoute, just kind of see what that actually looks like. So that was the file menu, automatic toolpath, and now you've got all 4 of your options here. Label designer, label maker, label printer, and ATP. If we pull up our thingy here again, we've got auto TP. That was the name, or automatic toolpath. That was the name of the guy right there. Right here, automatic toolpath. And then we've got our function, ATP, designer, label maker, label printer. And so these are all set in there for you. And I could edit this, I could add stuff to this or remove stuff if I want to, and kind of go back in here and kind of change the way that I want these items. Now, again, this might be something you may not terribly be interested in that much. You probably will find a layout that you like, but if you want to get into it, this is an option in here in EnRoute 7. I think most of you, though, will find this option down here for the shortcuts really helpful. So something that we have not had in EnRoute 7 before, and now it is available. Again, we're probably going to make a UI interface for this eventually. But for now, this gives you the ability to change and edit any keystroke in the software, which is a big plus since you weren't able to do that at all before. You kind of just had to learn the way EnRoute was, and that was it. So now this gives you the ability to combine keystrokes, create new ones, edit old ones, kind of make it feel the way you want it to feel to match your workflow and what you're familiar with. Because believe me, I know once you've gotten into a habit of keystrokes, it can be really hard to change. So it's easier for you to go in here and change the keystrokes to what you feel like they should be versus what we feel like they should be. So this is a new function in EnRoute. We think that it'll be a little bit tricky to kind of get into. Don't be too alarmed. It's not that hard, especially if you're just editing keystrokes. But even if you want to edit all the stuff up here, it's really not too bad, especially if you're just copying and pasting and rearranging stuff. So it's not too bad at all. But now that you know that this exists, we'd love to see kind of what you guys are able to do with it and use as you create your own custom keybinds and things like that. Any questions on this or anything else regarding EnRoute, or any questions you guys have?
Got a question from Omar here. Does this powerful tool come with recovery?
It doesn't have it. Well, I take that. Well, so here's what I would do is what I would do is I would just come into your folder here and make a copy of this preference file. So before you start editing, just copy paste it to the desktop, and then you have a copy of all your EnRoute preferences right there. So if anything does happen and something happens and for whatever reason it's just not working, it's causing problems, and you can't seem to figure out what you might have done, then you can always just drag this back into this folder, and all will be well. Or if you forget to make a copy of it, if you just go into close the EnRoute, so if we close the EnRoute software, and here's what we'll do, I will just right click on this and delete it. The next time I open EnRoute, it has an auto recovery feature where it automatically installs a brand new default copy of the EnRoute preferences.xml. So if ever you want to go back to the default or something happens that it gets corrupted, you can always just either delete it or go back and it'll create the default. Or if you have something set and you like the way it is, you might just copy the EnRoute preferences to a desktop or to a folder, save it, and then start editing from there, and then you should be good.
All right, we've got a comment from Tim here. The XML has a file close that does not appear in the file menu.
Now, I have not gone through this extensively. Let's see here. So under the file menu, let's go back to, you are correct. It does. This might be, let's see here. I just closed EnRoute because we needed to relaunch that file. You're right. So I think that must just be. Well, that's interesting. I wonder if it appears. Interesting. No, it doesn't. I think it has to do with the closing of the window. That's interesting. I'll have to check that out. I haven't noticed that before. Yeah, but you're right. There is a missing. It should be there, although. Yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah, I'll have to check that out. I hadn't noticed that before. We'll look into that one, see what the deal is there. But you're right. There is an option that's there but doesn't show.
Jeff has a question. Is there a way to extend by a specific length like EnRoute 6?
No, currently there is not. The extend tool now works a little bit differently than in what it used to. This is something that we are possibly looking at bringing back, but currently the answer to that question is no. The extend tool and trim kind of just work by snaps.
Another question from William. How would I make a drop-down stay open, like keeping all of the weld tools available at once?
So what you could do is, if you wanted to do that, you can do one of two things. You could bring that out as its own drop-down box. So, for example, I believe we should be able to. No, it's not going to let me. Okay. So what I would probably do in that case is come in here to the XML file and find the weld menu items. So let's just find, well, it's probably gonna be the last one. Draw, transform, surfaces. Of course, it'll be the last one that I look at. Machining, setup. Was it above? Let me just make sure I didn't accidentally skip over it. Let's see here. Let's go back to the top here. So file, edit, view. Oh, you know what? What menu is it under? We got to find out. It's under draw or transform. Okay, it's under transform and weld. So we got to look under transform. So we would look under our transform menu, which I saw here. So draw. Let's click on that just so I can see. Okay, so here's our transform menu. And then we would go under weld. And here's what we would do is we could delete if we wanted them to be as buttons in a toolbar. Okay, let's see here. Is that the, actually I was going underneath the menu. We need to pull out this guy right here. What is this? Okay, this is object edit. So if we go to object edit, that's what we want to be under here. So let's do object edit. Okay, so here's our toolbar object edit, and we have move, align, and weld. So here's what we would do is we would just add a slash to this right here, like that, and then get rid of this one. And then we would do this. So tab these out, and then each one of these will now be their own separate button. So if I were to restart EnRoute, and now if I close this, it's going to delete this. So I should have closed EnRoute first. But if I delete this now, what will happen is it'll change this menu bar to now have all of the weld options as their own separate buttons. So actually, why don't we just go ahead and try that real quick? We've got some time here. So let's just do... see here, we need to add our slash, delete that one, and then we should, oops, do that. Now this is kind of on the fly here, so if this doesn't, I'm hoping this will do what I think it does, because now it shouldn't have a fly out menu. Yeah, there we go. Let's see here. Let me pull this up here so you can see it, because it always opens on my other screen. Okay, here we go. So now all of our weld buttons are now as separate options on this toolbar, just like that. So essentially what we did there was we just removed the little button and put the thing up here and then backed off all the tabs. So now it's no longer underneath the weld join button.
All right, looks like you answered that one for William. Tim has a question here. Is there any reason that when the setup options standard plus is used, the 3D toolbar disappears?
Yes, that is because EnRoute Plus by default does not come with any 3D tools options available to it. So that's why that one disappears. If you purchase EnRoute Plus, you actually would have to purchase, well, if you were looking to add 3D functionality to Plus, you'd end up having to buy Pro, or I think there might even be an add-on price. I'm not exactly sure on how all those upgrade paths work, but they would probably most likely just upgrade you to Pro or Complete, and then that would give you those functionalities, because Plus is kind of a just doesn't have any of the 3D stuff in it. It has everything that Pro has except for the 3D capabilities. So that's the only thing it doesn't have. So by default, that's not in it. So the Pro or the Complete would be your next best thing for that.
Jeff's got another question here. Is there a way to keep the drugged out menu bars from resetting when you shut down and restart EnRoute?
So currently, I believe that it retains your toolbar positions, but the drag out or fly out menus, I do believe they reset. And I think that I believe that we are addressing that as a bug or something like that, because it should keep those fly out menus. So I believe, if I remember correctly, we are working on that one as a bug. Thank you for mentioning that one, though. But yeah, those should stay open and attached once you create those flyout menus, but they don't currently. So yeah, that's something that we're working on.
All right, are there any other questions for Aaron before we close it out for today? I know this was a kind of a complicated topic. If you end up having any questions after we close out for today, then you can always reach out to our tech support or even leave a comment on this video when it goes up on our YouTube channel, and we can answer them for you there also. Omar, how do we access past videos? On our YouTube channel, we have all of the past webinars and many other instructional videos and how-tos on there. So that can be pretty useful for you. Tim had a comment, version 7 Plus has a create mesh 3D ability.
It does. The create 3D mesh ability is in order so that you can create, I believe there's the component creator, which allows you to create 2D drawings based off of a 3D mesh. And so that's why I believe that's why that's in there, if I remember correctly. So you just can't create 3D reliefs, which would be some of these options up here. So like create relief and whatnot are under the surfaces menu. So there are some little pieces like that in there in the Plus version. It's just not all of the 3D tools are available in Plus.
Omar had a comment after that one, or a question after that one. On that note, is there a size limit to STL or mesh file imports?
There is not that I know of. I know with EnRoute 7 now, with it being 64-bit, it can handle much larger size mesh files than in the past, mainly just because of a memory issue. The 32-bit version of EnRoute could only use 4 gigs of RAM. So now the 64-bit is not necessarily constrained by that. So larger STL files, larger relief files, all that kind of stuff, it should be able to handle bigger ones without as near of an issue as it did before. I don't know if there's a size limit. There might be. I don't know of a specific limit number, though. I would imagine that an STL file, though, that is very, very large, like if you're talking like 1 or 2 gigabytes, that's an enormous file. So, that could cause the software to slow down a little bit, but I would say that it's larger than before.
Alan has a question. Is there ever going to be support for SVG files as an import and save?
That's a good question. I don't know. It has been brought up in the past. I don't know if that's something that you'll have to ask development about, but it currently, not that I know of, but I can bring it up again as an option and see, at least find out what the answer is to that. And if it might be something we could add in for future versions. But as far as I know currently, no, I don't know the exact reasoning behind that. If it's, you know, proprietary or some other thing, I don't know, but I could check into that.
And then Omar's asking what the process is to go from 6 Pro to 7 Pro. If you're asking about just upgrade paths with specific pricing, you'd have to contact our sales team, which you can do through our website. Top right corner of the website will have a contact button where you can email them directly. All right, wait, just a couple more seconds here, see if any other final questions come in. Had some good questions today, so thanks, Aaron, for answering those.
If you want, Tim, I can email you about some things if you have a specific question you want me to follow up on.
Omar says there are a lot of requests for web accessible tool lists.
Do you mean a tool list that could be accessed via like two different programs? So two different people could use the same tool list and they can sync. Is that what you're referring to? The idea of sharing tool list is something that's been around for a while, and it's something that is a little bit tricky to handle, mainly because you have two separate applications trying to access the same file or trying to access the same data, and then what happens when one of them updates it and the other one doesn't? That could be that. It's kind of a problematic thing. We've had that problem with our other software, Flexi, before, where when Windows tries to access the same file, when two people try to access the same file at the same time, it causes all kinds of crashing and issues in Windows as well. So it probably can be done. I don't know what the solution to that is right now, and that's something that our development has been on their radar for a while. So I don't know, if or when that would come along and how that would work.
Okay. Jeff had a clarification on Omar's behalf. He's asking about tool libraries from the tooling manufacturers.
Currently, I believe the only tooling manufacturer that we support or directly have information from, I believe, or that we partner with, I think, is X-Edge Tools. So I believe they're the only ones currently. I don't know. It's possible. A lot of that depends on if the manufacturers of the tools are willing to work with us and other things like that. So there's all kinds of stuff that goes into that. A lot of that has to do with the manufacturers sharing their information and working with us. So that's part of it as well. So sometimes if we may want to, but it may be a thing where they may not want to share. So, or they may not want to give that information or provide it or whatever. So that that one has a little bit of a it's kind of a difficult one to answer.
All right, Omar's got a question here, and this will be our last one because we're about out of time. Can we shortcut info from a PDF and rapidly upload?
Shortcut info from a PDF and rapidly upload. Upload to into EnRoute, or I don't know of a way. Your tool library is the only way that you can access the tools inside of EnRoute. So, and then the strategies. So if what we've done in the past with the Xedge is that we've done strategies and stuff like that would be part of their tools, their specific tools. So we would need to build a custom tool library and then a strategy templates in order to do that. Now you can do that on your own if you have your own tools. You can save strategies and your tool library, and you could save them to a custom location on a network or whatever, access them between versions that way. But that would be the only way I would know of to rapidly access those kinds of things from other versions and like that.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for all the questions today. That's all we have time for, so we'll go ahead and close it out. Thank you all for joining us for this EnRoute webinar. Our next EnRoute webinar will be about some advanced nesting tools, so you'll want to be there for that one. That'll be on February 15th, and we hope to see you there. Make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter so you won't miss out on any webinar announcements, and you can sign up for that on our website. Thanks again for being here. We hope you learned something, and we'll see you next time.